There is a need and demand for food. Pastor Matt Anderson of Star of Hope Ministries, which provides food to neighbors in Patterson, Willingboro, and beyond, begins with his faith story and shares how we can help right where we are.
Well, so my story actually starts in New Jersey. I'm born and bred in North Jersey. Grew up in a Christian home. So thankful for the amazing influence of my Christian parents. My father has been involved in ministry for many years, and just growing up in a Christian home and a solid Christian family is, obviously had a great influence on me in my life. It's interesting though too. There's in the kingdom, there's no grandkids in the kingdom though, right? Where we all have to at some point make our own decision for Christ. And I think one of the really transformative times for me was in my college and young adult years, where at some point all of the things that we learn throughout our lives growing up in a Christian home, it really needs to be moved from our head down into our heart. And that's where there was really a unique transition that happened in my life during that time. And God worked in some remarkable ways in my heart along the way. So I'm very, very thankful for my Christian upbringing and the way God is even using that now. So my wife and I were missionaries for 5 years overseas. We lived in Okinawa, Japan, and ultimately felt God calling us to come. So we kind of consider ourselves reverse missionaries because God called us to come back to New Jersey. And our goal was to plant a church here. So we came back in 2007. We ended up starting a church. And ultimately, the Lord led us into the city of Patterson, which has been an amazing blessing for us. So I've been involved in ministry here in Patterson since 2013. Another act of God's sovereignty, ended up connected with Star of Hope Ministries here in downtown Patterson, which has been a huge part of my faith story and our ministry lives. And so started out volunteering at Star of Hope, eventually came on staff part-time, and then a little bit more time, and then full-time. And then about 3.5 years ago, I took over as the executive director. So if you had told me 10 years ago that this is where God would have me today, I would have thought you were crazy. But it's been an amazing journey, just trying to be faithful to what God has called us to do.
So talk a bit about the Star of Hope. What do you do there?
Yeah, so the real heart of let me go back up a little bit for those that have not heard of Star of Hope before. Star of Hope has been here in the city of Patterson this is our 107th year of ministry. So it's been here quite a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I haven't been here that long, but Star of Hope has. And it's for about 75 years of the ministry, it functioned like a traditional rescue mission. There were residents that lived here, many that were struggling with homelessness or drug or alcohol addiction, things like that, joblessness, and also functioned as a preaching station for North Jersey. There was a lot of preachers that would come through, for many, many years. Some of them quite big name preachers that came through in the 30s, 40s, 50s, things like that. And then in the early 90s, my predecessor, Jay Sinclair, really shifted the model because he started to see the real gem in the city, which is the local church. And with all of the challenges that a city like Patterson and many other, mid-sized cities like Patterson have, he really started to see the value of empowering churches and church leaders to really be agents of change in our community. So he shifted the model very drastically to, instead of doing direct service for individuals, to serving pastors and leaders in churches. So now we have a network of about 75 churches and organizations that we serve, and we help them with food and clothing resources so that they can serve their neighbors. We help them with some leadership development training. We help them with other seminars and training and bringing people together for prayer throughout the year. So there's a whole host of different ways that we help serve churches so that they can better serve the community and be salt and light in our neighborhoods.
How are you connecting churches for these needed resources? And how do you collect food?
Yeah. So like I said, we have about 75 churches. We actually have a formal member network where they apply every year, and they sign off on an agreement that they understand what it means to be a part of this member network, and that's primarily who we serve with food and connect with on things. But we also have a wider network beyond that of support churches, partners throughout northern New Jersey, and even beyond that, that help us with collecting items, with donating financially, things like that. So we have a network of easily over 100 churches throughout North Jersey that help support this initiative to provide resources and tools for Patterson churches, Newark churches, Willingboro churches.
So you have an initiative going on right now for Thanksgiving. Talk about
Yes.
the Thanksgiving box of love that you're doing.
Yeah. So, well, let me just back up a little bit too. One of the real needs, especially in a year like 2020 has been,
Mm-hmm.
one of the real unique needs is for food. With COVID-19, with the quarantining and lockdowns and all this kind of stuff, it became very apparent to us early on in the pandemic that there was going to be a major need for food. So we've actually increased our food distribution this year in response to COVID-19. There's many families that, well, let me just say, when issues like this hit our country, it's usually the most vulnerable that are impacted the most,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's what we've seen here in a city like Patterson and other cities all around the country, where families that are now unemployed, or they're struggling with childcare issues because they're working from home, or their kids are doing remote school,
Mm-hmm.
and they are trying to figure out, well, I have to be with my kids at home, so how do I get to work? And it causes all these unique challenges. And on top of it, they're saying, how can I feed my family as well? So,
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real serious need. And it's also, there's issues in a lot of urban areas with accessibility to food. If you don't have transportation, or you don't have, or if your family was exposed to COVID and you don't want to go to the grocery store, what do you do? So we've really pushed very hard this year for our food initiative. We've partnered with 5 other nonprofits in Patterson. It's been a really unique partnership. And in the last 9 months since the pandemic started, we've been able to help in this process with these other nonprofits to pack and distribute over 1 million pounds of food, which has been a pretty remarkable feat. It really speaks to the fact that when you work together, you can accomplish more than any one of us can accomplish alone. So, so that brings me to our Thanksgiving initiative, which we have always done. We call it our Thanksgiving Box of Love. And our goal this year is to distribute 2,000 boxes of food and 1,500 turkeys for families in need. And one of the things that I say about this initiative every year is that the beauty of it is that we do it all through the local church. So it would be very easy for us to open up our front doors the week before Thanksgiving and say, hey, everybody, free food and free turkeys. And we would have a line from here to Ohio, right? That was people looking for free food.
Yeah.
The problem is there's no way that we would have the capacity to develop a relationship with them and ultimately to point them to Christ.
Yes.
And that's why we believe the church is so important in this process. So we actually give food to our churches. So we might have a pastor or a leader that comes to us and they receive 30, 40, 50 boxes of food. They receive 20 or 30 turkeys, and then they're able to go out into their neighborhood, and they have the capacity to meet their neighbors, to help somebody in need, to say, "Hey, God bless you," and really, ultimately, it's not about food. It's ultimately about being able to build a relationship, and that's one of the key elements when you talk about poverty alleviation, right? In America, we tend to define poverty in material terms. It's a lack of money, or it's a lack of food. It's a lack of, something physical. And really, the reality of poverty is that it's rooted in broken relationships with each other, broken relationships ultimately with God on a vertical level. So we want to be able to use a resource like food to help bring about restoring relationships with people. So,
What a wonderful story and a ministry that you are
thank you.
honored to do for the Lord.
Yes, amen. It's a privilege.
It is a privilege. My next question to you would be, you do organize citywide prayers.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so for many years, we've had what we've referred to as our Pastors' Prayer Fellowship, which was a monthly prayer gathering of pastors from Paterson, but also from around the greater Paterson area. And obviously, because of COVID, we haven't been able to gather in person this year. The last time we met was in February, but we've had some unique opportunities at Star of Hope, and also even outside of Star of Hope's network. There's a group in Paterson called Ecclesia, which is a group that's really trying to build a prayer movement around the city. So we've been able to coordinate with them. I'm part of their leadership team, and coordinating some prayer events around the city, and just bringing together pastors, leaders, just people that are passionate about praying for our city together. So early on in the pandemic, we had daily prayer via Zoom and conference calls, and now we're doing that monthly. But we also have held some outdoor prayer gatherings. We have one coming up tomorrow. I know this is recorded, so it won't actually be tomorrow, but we're gathering outdoors so that we can just be unified and pray together. So just keep us in prayer with that, because there's some real spiritual strongholds, and that's a major battle in our city. And if there's anything that the enemy does not want to see us doing, it's praying together, right?
Absolutely.
And praying in unity. So that's we know God is victorious. So we're going to keep pushing forward and praying and just seeking the unity that God desires.
So we're going to put right across your front, how they can do the Thanksgiving box of love.
Yes.
So anybody from anywhere around the country.
Yes.
Because this show goes all the way to California.
Yeah, awesome.
If anybody wants to contribute to that, or can you talk into the lives of the people right where they are, and how can they give to their communities in need of food?
Yeah. So if anybody is interested in participating in our Box of Love initiative, this year, because of COVID, we're actually asking people to give financially online, and then we will purchase the food in bulk, and we will pack and prepare the boxes with our volunteers. So you can just go to our website. It's sohm.org. If you want to go specifically to our Box of Love page, it's sohm.org/box of love. You can give online there. We're asking for donations of $50 to fill a box, or $18 to purchase a turkey. And there's also information on our website there too about volunteer opportunities for those of you that may be local to North Jersey here. There are some volunteer opportunities, and not just for Box of Love, but also throughout the year we have volunteer opportunities with packing food, for our weekly food distributions, for we have a thrift store here at our location, so we always have a lot of volunteer needs along those lines. So we'd love to have anybody get involved. I would say too, for those of you around the country, if you are interested in getting involved in food distribution and food resources, I know obviously there's food banks, there's food pantries all around the country. One of the things I always encourage people to think about though is And this is really one of the things I'm so passionate about with our ministry is helping local churches so that they can use those food items as a resource to reach their community. Ultimately, yes, we can give out food until the cows come home, but if we're not making that connection for people with a local church family, and ultimately the connection with Christ, we're really not fully doing, I don't think, what God wants us to do. So I would encourage people to always be looking for opportunities to give through the church, through the local church, support those efforts around the country as well. As we look around our country, as we look around our world today, we see a lot of unrest. We see a lot of anxiety. We see a lot of people that are just struggling with depression and things like that. And I really think about the fact that when Jesus was born, he was declared as the Prince of Peace. And I really think that's a beautiful thing because in a world where there is so much unrest and there's so much anxiety and there's so much depression and uncertainty, and people, it's been ramped up even more in 2020, and maybe some people watching this now are feeling that, and they're saying, what is tomorrow going to look like? The beauty of this, and this is why I'm so passionate about my faith, is that there is a Prince of Peace that we can enter into a relationship with, and he can bring us that peace that passes all understanding, that wipes away all of the anxiety, and we can have freedom from all of that and walk in a way that is really contrary to the world, where the world is trying to find peace, trying to find satisfaction in all sorts of other things. But God provides this amazing kind of peace that we can walk in through a relationship with Jesus Christ. So I would invite any of you on this, watching this call, wherever you might be, if you're looking for that kind of peace, there's only one place to find it, and that's through a relationship with Jesus Christ. So if you're not sure where to go to find that, find a Bible, read the Gospel of John, reach out to a local Bible teaching church in your area. And if you want to reach out to me personally, you can email us here at info@sohm.org, and we'd love to talk to you more about that as well, or I'm sure Nancy would. But there is a Prince of Peace that can bring us all a peace that passes all understanding. And I believe that with all my heart, and I've experienced that in my life, in all of the unrest, that we can walk in peace and confidence, knowing that God is in control and that he is sovereign. So hopefully that's an encouragement to somebody watching today.